Lifebrary, a podcast dedicated to your personal story. A story which is not merely a collection of events, but a powerful chronicle that encapsulates the essence of who you are. Understanding the importance of your personal story is to recognize the significance of your voice in the grand symphony of life. Let's get connected.
Hi, I was born in Milwaukee, in Misericordia Hospital. That's no longer here in existence. Gone. My first memory was when I was about 3 years old, and we lived in the upper floor of a duplex, and Mrs. Davidson, sweet Mrs. Davidson, lived down below. And I would go visit her, and she had a round table with lots of little drawers. And guess what she had in there? Pencils. I fell in love with pencils. She had so many pencils, so many different colors and types. It was awesome. She'd send an apple with me to go back upstairs. And I remember the night my sister was born. My mother was in the rocking chair, groaning, and Dad said, "Mom's sick." And I had to go downstairs. And then they brought the baby back. But downstairs they had a female dog. And I couldn't understand why this dog had a diaper on it. Well, when I got older, I learned why. My next memory was my bicycle got stolen. Okay, my dad had always said, put the bike in the back. Did I? No. So I went out and I go, oh, it's gone. Well, my dad pulled it in the back, so he taught me a lesson, and that lesson really stuck. I would take a baby bird in my carriage and push it around, and I rescued a cat, but when he got mad at me and he scratched and bit me, and I think that's what started my cat allergies, because I took him by the tail and swung him around and let him go. I was mean, but the bully boys were meaner because they trapped him under the porch, and I rescued him. I went to grade school, Catholic grade school. I was a perfectionist. I had spent hours on homework. In junior high, my greatest memory is raising chickens. So I had an experiment I had to do. We had an incubator. I would cut a window in the shell and watch its development. And soon we had 6 baby chickens, and my mother would sing the chickens to sleep. Soon, however, they got out of their box. That wasn't too good for the house, so we gave them to the farmer. So after grade school, I went to high school, and I was valedictorian, and they called me the brain, and I didn't have many friends because I was too smart. And I spent a summer before my senior year at St. Olaf College. You know, the Golden Girls, they know St. Olaf. Well, it was a science project, but the first weekend up there I was playing volleyball, and my uncle and grandparents lived only 10 miles away, and he was going to come pick me up, and I did not want to go. So I said, I'm playing volleyball. This was my time away from family. And I jumped up, and I heard a snap, and I landed on the floor, and I couldn't get up. I dislocated my knee. Back then, there was no HIPAA rules or no privacy, so Grandma saw, they put in the paper the names of the people who were in the hospital, and Grandma saw my name. Well, I learned I should be obedient. I went to school in Oshkosh and wanted to do pre-med. I was a biology major, so I would breed fruit flies, really lots of fun, cut open animals. And I graduated summa cum laude. Didn't get the research job I wanted with dogs out east. So I went to Florida and spent an unhappy year in Florida doing some medical lab work. And I was a minority in the lab because everyone else was Cuban. And my great experience there was this East Indian man who asked me if I would marry him. Now, we never dated, but obviously he wanted to stay in the country. I said, no, I have to marry for love. Well, when I did marry for love, it only lasted a year, and I got divorced. Yeah. But I think I think Wisconsin is almost as good as Florida because Lake Michigan is big, but it's a little bit colder and not salty. And people thought I was crazy because I said, I can't wait to come back home and shovel snow. I still shovel snow. So when I came back, I did some cancer research at the medical college. And back then, the East and the West had to both verify and experiment. And so I had the opportunity to deal with like Polish scientists and stuff. And back then they were excited about nylons and blue jeans. And of course, it's quite a while ago. So I applied to med school, got on the waiting list, did not get in. This was in the 70s. I don't think women were looked very favorably on for med school. So my chemistry minor got me all my jobs here in Milwaukee. One was in a chemical plant. It was the worst job because I had to fill tear gas containers with a mask on, and even with a mask on, my eyes would water, and it was not fun. And even some of those, they're serialized, and some were actually found in a robbery nearby. I worked at W.H. Brady as a quality control manager and a product development person. I worked in medical packaging, which was interesting because I've always had the medical interest, and I got to travel to Johnson & Johnson and watch the Band-Aid being made and a whole bunch of rolls of like 12 different materials come together at the same time to make a bandage. I got to go to 3M and see how their dressings was made because we made the packaging for them, and I got to go to Mexico because back then they dipped latex gloves and they had hand forms. Well, I got stuck at the border because I used a form I had filled in before because it was Spanish, and I didn't speak Spanish, and they took my passport, and luckily, I had a national with me. So they took us somewhere, and they bargained for whatever fine it was supposed to be, and then when the national pulled out his card, because it was in Juarez, the card was El Paso, because that's where the headquarters were, so they paid the fine. But it was scary. So when my son was out of school, I hit the age of 50 and decided, Gloria, it's time to either do something or not do something. So I went back to school at the age of 50 because I always wanted health care. And in 15 months, I got my RN, and then in 2 years, I got my nurse practitioner. So I worked several jobs, most in primary care. Sometimes it was in the clinic, sometimes it was going to the houses. It always was for the underserved in mostly the north side of Milwaukee. I'm currently semi-retired. I'm a geriatric hospice nurse practitioner, so I see people and determine if they still remain qualified for hospice. I'm also a chaplain. I had wanted fleetingly in the past to maybe be a minister, but I couldn't see myself writing sermons weekly. So I took 2 units of what's called clinical pastoral education, and right now, the organization I'm with, I'm only serving one customer in Waukesha. So we go into businesses. We might go into restaurants, offices, warehouses, and it's really kind of fun. I like traveling. Last fall, I went to Iceland, and I can't wait to get back and look at all the other museums. I only got to see one. I like going to the national parks, except where they have bears. No bears. I did buy a big bear spray. It's probably about 12 inches. Never had to use it, but coming back from a tour in Glacier National Park on this red bus tour, all of a sudden we saw a spilled sundae and flip-flops in the middle of the road, and looking to the side, we saw the rangers, and there was a campground right next to where we stayed, and the bear was up in the tree. And they shot, they didn't shoot the bear, but they shot like fireworks to scare him away. So that was really kind of funny. Actually, kind of scary because I'm in this open top thing. I don't want it to come. So I've also been to England, which, other than Stonehenge, to me wasn't that impressive, but at least it was something. I've been to the U.S. and British Virgin Islands and Death Valley. Well, in Death Valley, it's so funny because we were in the bus and the ground is all white. Now, okay, being from Wisconsin, what do you think is white on the ground? Snow. I go, how could snow be in Death Valley? Well, it was actually the salt that evaporated up, and so it wasn't snow. It was so funny. I forgot to say I have one son. I guess I put him to the side only because it's associated with his dad, who I divorced. But he lives 6 hours away. He is now 45. I go, oh my gosh, he's getting old and I'm getting older. Some of my fun time, I was reading and crafts, and I had been volunteering. I kind of stopped it a little bit, but I'm on the Commission of Aging. I had been on the library board. And so what's upcoming? I still want to travel. I still would like to volunteer. And I think a point is you're never too old to try something that you want to try. It may work for you, it may not, but at least you've tried and then taken that desire away. Bye.